Okay, so now we're going to create a very simple character in Maya based on the drawings that you did. So the first thing we need to do is set up our project. So you're going to come to File, Project Window, which is down here on the bottom, and you're going to name it. And I like to leave project at the end just so that I know it's a full project that I'm working on. Oh, I had an old one here, so I'm just going to click New. So I'm going to change, it wouldn't let me change the name, which is nice. And I'm going to name this P7 Demo. And then I'm going to choose the location. So you want to make sure yours is in the place that you would like it to be, in your M drive most likely. And just make sure it is in the right place. And then press accept. And now we're gonna set the project. So File, Set Project, pick the folder you just made and press and see how the directory changes to that, and so press set. Okay, so those two steps. Now we've created this folder. Let me get into it. And it has all of these folders in here for us. So you can copy and paste that folder and have all of your images and everything that you need. There's extra stuff that we're not going to be using, but I just wanted to show you how to set it up. And what we're going to do is put the images that we created in Photoshop into the source images. So they're always in there. And if you're copying and pasting this from an external drive, you have them. So I have my front and side JPEGs. I'm just holding Shift and selecting both and doing Control C to copy, coming into my project, into my source images, and Control V to paste. So those images are in there and part of the project. So now we're going to add the images into Maya. So I'm going to come into this 4-panel view. So it's the second one down. And in the front, I'm going to come to View, Image Plane, Import Image. So View, Image Plane, Import Image. And it takes us right to the source images automatically that we've set up because it knows that's what we want. So I'm going to pick front, press open, I'll come into the move tool here, and I'm just going to set it up. And I'm realizing that green wasn't the best choice for this. I forgot that that's the color that Maya uses for its bounding boxes. So maybe when you make your lines in Photoshop, probably don't choose green. That wasn't the smartest choice. Then I'm going to come into the side. I'm going to go to View, Image Pane, Import Image, and I'm going to choose the side view. And I'm just moving it up, getting it to the center, and then I'm coming in the perspective and I'm just moving it back a little bit so I have a little room to work. And so I'm going to make my model kind of right in the center, and I'm going to have these as a guideline. And that's the basics of how you set it up. I can click on this panel and press A to center it so I can see everything. So I'm going to click on this panel, press A on the keyboard, make sure everything's centered and looking good. And now we're going to put these images into a new layer. So if you come into the channel box here on the right, you can select the two images in the outliner where it says image plane. If you don't see outliner, come up to Windows and just check outliner. So I'm clicking on one image, holding Shift and clicking on the other, so they're both selected. Then I'm in my channel box here, and it's the last icon. Create new layer and assign selected objects. So that new layer is created. And now I can make them disappear, and then the last one turn to R, so it sort of sets it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add a cube for the torso. And I'm going to put it in a 2-view option. So it's the third one down, so I have 2 views, and I'm going to make the second view the side. And then you can press A and zoom in and zoom in to get it centered. So I'm going to make a cube for the torso. Now we have in the polygons, we're in the modeling setup. In polygons, we have a cube and I want to draw this one out. I don't want it to just show up in the center. So to do that, you go to Create, Polygon Primitives, and make sure Interactive Creation is checked. And when this is checked, you can select the cube and you can draw out the shape that you want. And then I'm going to come over here and give it some volume. I can come into my scale tool, which is on the bottom here, and I can give it some more shape, into the move tool, just get it set up. So you can spend a lot of time getting yours looking the way you want it to look and getting it the right size based on your drawing. So you can also make this an X-ray view. So if you come to shading, X-ray, you can see right through it, and that can help you with this assignment as well. So just take the time to get that the right shape. We're gonna add some divisions to it and give it some roundness. So I'm selected on the box, on the cube I just made, and we're in the channel box still. And if you come down here into inputs, you can add divisions. So I'm just doing 2, 2, 2 to give it some more divisions. And then we can use the vertex selection to drag the vertexes, which are just the vertices, which are just the points, and give it some more detail, some rounded detail. So the first thing we want to do after we add the divisions is press the number 3 on the keyboard. And this is sort of like pressing tab in Lightwave. You're rounding the object, you're smoothing it. So I'm going to come into the modeling toolkit. I'm going to be in my vertex selection. And I want to have the pick/marquee selection option checked. So I'm going to click and drag, and I have Symmetry Object X selected here. So now when I come to move it, you can see it's moving on both sides. So you can spend many hours getting yours exactly the way you want to by clicking and dragging these vertices and pulling them out or pushing them in. You can select just one, or you can select many of them. It's totally up to you and what your shape is looking like. And remember, you can play around with the symmetry between object X and object Y depending on which points you're pulling out. So now we're going to add the arms. So I'm going to come into the perspective view here and zoom in. Now sometimes with the zoom, I know some of you have been getting a little frustrated. You can come to View, Camera Tools, 2D Pan Zoom Tool, and that's where you can move it up and really get it centered the way you want it to look. Okay. So we're going to add some edge loops where the arms are going to be. We need some more geometry to add these arms here. So I'm going to keep the symmetry on object X, because when I'm selecting the faces, so I'm in the face selection, my symmetry is on object X, you can see it's selecting on the other side, and we want that symmetry because we're going to pull out the arms on both sides. So let's just add some geometry exactly where we want it here. So we're going to select the whole thing with this selection here, and you can either do Shift and right click for Insert Edge Loop, or you can come up to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. So it's going to show us the outside edge too, like the not smooth version of it, and I'm clicking on the edges and I'm dragging them. I want at least 4 to pull out the arm. So I'm making 4 polygons from where I can pull the arm out. So let's come back into our selection. I'm going to select the whole thing and just take a look at it. I'm going to hold Alt and rotate a little bit. Now this is where I'm going to pull the arm out. So I'm going to take the face selection And remember these different options. Now I can check the drag option and I can drag to select those. I want to hold the Alt key and rotate a little bit and make sure the other side is selected, and that looks good. So now we're just going to extrude. So when you're in the modeling toolkit, you have extrude, and we're just going to pull that out. If you come to scale, the scale tool, we can straighten that out a little bit, taper it down, and that's going to be like the upper arm. And then I'm going to hit extrude again, and we can pull out the lower arm and we can scale it down. And then we can press extrude again and we can start pulling out. I'm going to press it one more time and we can start pulling out the shape for where the hand would be. And depending on how detailed yours is, you can either add more polygons by inserting more edge loops, or you can keep on extruding from there and tapering down. So this is really going to be dependent on yours, and we can work individually in class to make sure you get yours looking good. So spend some time getting that shape correct. And one thing I do want to do is I want to add a little more geometry for the elbow, because that will help during animation. So we don't want too many polygons because we want to keep it simple, but we also want enough for it to be able to move, right? So let's add a few more edge loops. So insert edge loop, and let's take some, I want like 2 around the elbow there. So it just gives it a little more shape. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks good. And if you wanted to move it, you could click on the edge selection and you just double click on the one we just made and you press the move tool and you can move that a little bit and adjust them. And then you can come in the same way we were doing to adjust the body, and you can go to the pick marquee selection again, and you can grab these and you can adjust them as much as you want. See how I have symmetry object X selected? So it's creating the symmetry on the other side, which you definitely want. So you're going to do the same thing for the legs, and for the hands, now I would suggest, since this is a beginning project, keeping the hands super simple. Maybe just making, like, if it's a person, if it's a human character, maybe they have mittens on, or just keeping it as simple as you can. And you can, like for the hoof, I might hold shift and select these 3, or select these 3 here, and then use the move tool and push them in like that. And let's see. And then I could take the sides here, select these, and move that in, pull it out. Looks like I selected some on the bottom by accident, so I'm gonna undo that. So I'm gonna select the drag one, so I just drag these. That looks better because it says 6 vertices selected. I have 3 on this side and 3 on the other side. There we go. So now I'm gonna drag and select these, and I can pull those out and move them, and you can really spend a lot of time adjusting everything to look exactly how you want. Okay, so you're gonna do the legs in the same exact way and whatever you have for the feet, and you're gonna spend time refining the vertices and matching your outline of your object. And then I'm just gonna show you how to do the head. So let's go into front view. I'm gonna come into my view, camera tools, 2D pan and zoom, and I'm just gonna get the head there. Okay, so I'm gonna make another cube for my head, and I'm gonna drag it out. actually want to come into the two views and have this one be the side. I'm going to drag this guy out, and I'm basically doing the head the same way I did the body. So I'm making a cube, getting it set up, and then I'm adding some more divisions in the channel box layer, scrolling down, do 2, 2, 2, and then I'm adjusting the vertices. So I'm selecting on the whole thing, pressing 3 to round it out, and then I'm in the vertex selection. I'm going back into the pick marquee mode, and I'm going to, you know, adjust these. Probably need to pull the center ones out a little bit. Get these looking the way I want on the front and the side. Oops. And then I'm gonna pull out the face. So I want to extrude, and you can do this. I suggest doing this even if you have a more human looking character than mine. So one thing that's happening, I'm zooming in and out, and it's going up and down because I'm still in this zoom pan tool, which is up here. So I can click out of that, hold Alt, and try to get back to my face. You can always press A to get back to the center and zoom in. Okay. So what we want to do, I want to pull out the nose here. So I'm going to select the front two vertices of the face, and now I don't want symmetry on because I just want to pull out the front. So I'm going to turn that off. So it's just the front two, and I'm going to come back into my, I'm going to make this one a side view. Nope. Okay, so now I want to press extrude, and I can pull that out, and I can rotate it if it doesn't look the way I want it to look. And I can use the move tool to move it up, move it out. And I'm coming over here just to kind of check it out. And then I want the scale tool to taper it in a little bit. So you can do this for like the smile of the mouth, give it a little extra shape. Okay, so you can take as much time as you need to add some shape to yours. Remember to add legs. And then when you want to connect these two, I'm going to extrude a selection for the neck. So I'm going to pick this, and I'm just going to extrude it a little bit and pull it down and give it a taper with the scale tool. And now we can combine these two meshes, which we definitely want to do, especially for animation. So we have two separate things here. So we can hold one, click on one, and I'm going to be in the object selection. Hold Shift, click on the other one so they're both selected, and come to Mesh, Combine. So now that they're combined, but we have to join these two objects here. So the way we do that is we're going to do the face selection. I'm going to come into the one, and I'm going to come back to my camera tools and spend some time getting it set up. So I can make sure I can see the top of my body and the bottom of my head here. So we need to combine them, and they need to have the same number of edges to combine, or they won't combine very well. So I'm gonna take these two faces on the top, and I'm gonna come back into my selection tool. I'm gonna take this face, hold shift, take this face and delete. And there's a hole there now. And now we need the same number of edges to connect it to the bottom. So that doesn't look like it's gonna work too well, so I need to add some edge loops here. So we select and mesh tools, insert edge loop, and I'm just gonna add so we need 2 to connect it to. So let's see how this works. 1, 2, delete. Then I need to select those edges. So I'm in the edge selection. I just click on one and double click. I'm holding Alt, I'm holding Shift, double clicking on here, and we bridge. Okay, so that you can now take time with your vertices to select these, move them around, get it looking right, because it's a little distorted now, but I think you can see how you can get that looking really great. So let's see, the top, the side, and the front all are looking pretty good. Make sure you add legs to yours. Okay, so I was in the 2D pan zoom, and I was pressing A to try to get back to my perspective, but it wasn't letting me. So I had to click out of that tool up here, and I could press A to get into my perspective view. So that's very basic, and I don't want you to get too overwhelmed, so keep it really simple. Think about how you can simplify your object, your character, and make it look great with the tools that we have, with these very beginning tools. All right, have fun.